I was standing in my own hallway, frozen like a statue, when I heard my daughter-in-law whisper to my son through the crack of the guest bedroom door, "Once the old bat dies, this house is ours. Just smile and play nice at dinner." My hand was still raised, about to knock and tell them the pot roast was ready. I never knocked. I turned around, walked down those stairs I'd climbed for 37 years, picked up my phone, and by midnight, everything they thought they knew about me, about their future, was gone. My name is Diane Mitchell. I'm 72 years old, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people who smile the widest are the ones sharpening their knives behind your back. Let me take you back 6 months before that moment, 6 months before I became the old bat who refused to die on schedule. It was April when my son Connor called me. Not for my birthday, which had been 2 weeks earlier, but because he needed something. That's usually when I heard from him these days. He's my only child, the boy I raised by myself after his father walked out when Connor was 8. I worked 2 jobs to keep him in decent schools, drove him to every baseball practice, sat through every parent-teacher conference alone, while other couples held hands and shared the load. But that's ancient history, isn't it? Water under the bridge, people say, though I've noticed that water tends to carve out canyons over time. "Mom," he said, his voice doing that thing where it gets softer, almost gentle, the voice he used when he wanted something. "Jessica and I have been talking. We're worried about you in that big house all by yourself." Jessica, my daughter-in-law of 3 years, a woman who showed up to my only son's wedding in a dress that cost more than my monthly pension and proceeded to tell me that my hairstyle was very authentic for my generation. I'd chosen to take it as a compliment, though her friend's snicker suggested otherwise. "I'm perfectly fine, Connor," I said, stirring my afternoon coffee. I was standing in my kitchen, the one I'd renovated 12 years ago with my retirement bonus from the hospital where I'd worked as a nurse for 33 years. White cabinets I'd picked out myself, granite countertops I'd saved for, every choice mine. "We know you are, Mom. You're the strongest woman I know." Pause. The pregnant pause that comes before the real ask. But Jessica and I were thinking, what if we moved in with you? Just for a while. We could help around the house and you wouldn't be so isolated. Plus, we're trying to save for a down payment and rent in the city is just astronomical. I knew. I read the news. I saw the reports about young couples struggling. And despite everything, despite the missed birthdays and the holidays he spent with Jessica's family and the phone calls that only came when he needed something, he was still my son, my boy, the child I'd rocked through nightmares and nursed, through chickenpox and taught to tie his shoes using that trick with the bunny ears. So I said yes. God help me, I said yes. They moved in on a Saturday in May. Jessica arrived in yoga pants and a designer tank top, directing the movers like she was staging a photo shoot rather than moving into her mother-in-law's home. She'd brought furniture, not just clothes and personal items, but furniture. "I hope you don't mind," she said, not sounding remotely concerned whether I minded or not. "But our aesthetic is very modern minimalist, and some of your pieces are just so dated. We thought we'd put them in the garage temporarily, just while we're here." My grandmother's dining table, the one that had survived the Depression, went to the garage. The armchair my mother had reupholstered 3 times because she refused to throw away something that still worked, that found its way to the garage too. Jessica replaced them with sleek, uncomfortable-looking pieces in gray and white. My living room started to look like a doctor's waiting area. "It's just temporary," Connor said when he found me standing in the garage, running my hand over my grandmother's table. "And Mom, it does make the place look more updated, more valuable." More valuable. Even then, those words should have warned me. But I was too busy trying to convince myself that this was fine, this was good, this was family. Jessica didn't work. Connor had explained this to me early on. She was building her brand as a lifestyle influencer. which apparently meant spending 6 hours a day taking photos of herself in different outfits, drinking elaborate coffee drinks, and posting inspirational quotes she'd copied from other people over pictures of sunsets she'd downloaded from the internet. She'd taken over my home office for her content creation studio. My desk, the one where I'd balanced checkbooks and paid bills and written letters to Connor at summer camp, was replaced with a ring light and a backdrop that said, "Live your best life" in cursive script. I found myself spending more time in my bedroom. It was the only space that still felt like mine. Connor worked long hours at a tech company downtown, or at least he said he did. He'd leave early and come home late, and Jessica and I would circle each other in the house like cats establishing territory. She'd cook elaborate meals and photograph them for her Instagram, then leave the dishes in the sink. She'd use my expensive face cream and replace it with drugstore brands. Small things, tiny violations that I'd tell myself weren't worth mentioning. But they accumulated like dust in corners, like plaque on teeth, slow and steady and damaging. By July, the mask was slipping. I came home from my weekly volunteer shift at the hospital. I still helped out in the children's ward, reading stories to the little ones, and found Jessica in my bedroom, not just in it, but going through my jewelry box. "Oh," she said, not even having the grace to look embarrassed. "I was looking for a necklace for tonight's dinner. Connor said you wouldn't mind." Connor said. Everything was Connor said, or Connor thought, or Connor wanted. As if my son was some kind of oracle whose word was law in my own home. "That necklace," I said, pointing to the pearl strand she was holding, "was my mother's. It's not costume jewelry, Jessica. It's real pearls that my father gave her on their 25th anniversary." She held it up to the light, examining it like she was appraising merchandise at a flea market. "Oh, well, I'll be careful with it." "No," I said. The word came out harder than I intended. "That one stays here. You can borrow the silver one on the left." For just a moment, her face did something. A flicker of anger quickly smoothed away. "Of course, Diane. I understand. Sentimental value and all that." She said it the way you'd say, superstitious nonsense. Then she smiled, put my mother's pearls back, and took the silver necklace without asking. That night, I heard them talking in their room. The walls in my house weren't paper thin, but they weren't soundproof either. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was walking past to go to the bathroom, but Jessica's voice carried. "Your mother is so uptight about her things. It's just jewelry, Connor. It's not like she's taking it with her." Silence. I stood in the hallway waiting for Connor to defend me, to say something, anything, about respect or boundaries or the fact that it was my house and my jewelry and my life. "Just be patient with her, Jess," he said finally. "She's old-fashioned about stuff like that. She'll come around." She'll come around, like I was a stubborn dog that needed training. I went to bed that night and didn't sleep until 3 a.m. My friend Patricia, we'd been nurses together for 20 years, came over for coffee in August. I'd been canceling our weekly coffee dates, making excuses, but she'd finally pinned me down. She sat at my kitchen table, the new glass and chrome monstrosity that Jessica had insisted on, and looked around with the kind of expression you make when you're trying very hard not to say what you're thinking. "Diane," she finally said, "where's your grandmother's table?" "The garage." Jessica thought it was too dark for the space. Patricia's lips pressed into a thin line. She picked up her coffee mug, not one of my vintage ones, but a minimalist white cup that Jessica had bought in a set of 12, and took a long sip. "And you're okay with that?" Was I? I'd been asking myself that question every day for 3 months. Was I okay with my furniture in the garage? Was I okay with Jessica going through my things? Was I okay with Connor coming home and barely looking at me before disappearing into his room with his wife? "It's temporary," I said. It was becoming my mantra, my prayer, my lie. "Honey." Patricia reached across the table and took my hand. Her fingers were warm, solid, real. "I've known you since you were 45 years old. I watched you raise that boy alone. I watched you put him through college while you worked double shifts. I watched you build this life, this home, and now I'm watching you disappear in it." "That's dramatic, Patty." "Is it? When's the last time you had friends over? When's the last time you rearranged your own living room? When's the last time you made a decision about your own house without checking with them first?" I pulled my hand back. "They're family. Family makes compromises." "Compromise is meeting in the middle, Diane. This is you lying down while they walk across you to get to the other side." We didn't talk much after that. She finished her coffee, hugged me hard at the door, and said, "Call me when you're ready to tell the truth. I'll be waiting." I closed the door and stood in my hallway, the one with Jessica's modern art prints replacing my family photos, and felt something crack inside my chest, just a hairline fracture. But it was there. September came. Connor and Jessica had been living with me for almost 5 months. 5 months of watching my home transform into someone else's vision. 5 months of feeling like a guest in the house I'd lived in for 37 years. 5 months of telling myself that this was fine. This was what family did. This was temporary. I'd planned a family dinner, something I used to do every Sunday when Connor was growing up. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the recipe my mother taught me. Homemade rolls. Apple pie for dessert. I'd spent all afternoon cooking, trying to recapture something, though I wasn't sure what. Maybe the feeling that this was still my home. Maybe the sense that Connor was still my son. Jessica had been holed up in her studio all day doing a content shoot. Connor was in the guest room, their room now, on a work call. I'd made enough food for 6 people, even though it was just the 3 of us. Old habits. The roast was resting, the rolls were warm, the table was set. I walked upstairs to call them down for dinner. My heart was doing this stupid, hopeful thing, like maybe this meal would fix something, like maybe we could sit together and laugh and be a family again. I reached the guest room door. It was closed, but not latched. There was a 1/4-inch gap, just enough to see shadows moving inside, just enough to hear voices. I raised my hand to knock, and that's when I heard Jessica. "I swear to God, Connor, if she mentions that jewelry box one more time, I'm going to lose it. It's been 3 months. She's so paranoid about her things." Connor laughed. Actually laughed. I know, but come on, we can deal with it. Just a little longer." "How much longer?" "We've been here since May. I thought this was going to be a few months while we saved up. But we're still hemorrhaging money on student loans, and my brand isn't profitable yet, and I'm stuck in this house with your mother watching me like I'm going to steal the silverware." "Jess?" "No, Connor, I'm serious. When do we get our own place? When do we get to live our lives?" There was a pause. In that pause, I should have knocked. I should have walked away. I should have done anything but stand there, my hand frozen in mid-air, waiting for my son's response. "Look," Connor said, his voice dropping lower, "I've been thinking. Mom's not going to live forever. She's 72, and when she goes, this house is ours. It's already paid off. It's worth at least $800K, probably more with the way the market's going. We just need to be patient." My lungs forgot how to work. "How patient?" Jessica asked. And then, in a whisper that somehow carried through that 1/4-inch gap with crystal clarity, "Once the old bat dies, this house is ours. Just smile and play nice at dinner." Connor's laugh, low, complicit. "Exactly. Just smile and play nice." I don't remember walking down the stairs. I don't remember turning off the oven or covering the pot roast or putting the rolls away. My body did these things on autopilot while my brain replayed those words on an endless loop. The old bat. Once she dies, this house is ours. Just smile and play nice. I sat at my kitchen table, Jessica's kitchen table, as the sun set outside my windows. The house grew dark around me. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat there, feeling something inside me crystallize. Something that had been soft and hopeful and maternal was hardening into something else entirely. They came down eventually, following the smell of the food. I heard them on the stairs, their voices bright and cheerful. "Mom," Connor called, "something smells amazing." I stood up, turned on the lights. They came around the corner, all smiles and warmth, playing their parts perfectly. "Sorry we took so long," Jessica said, her voice honey-sweet. "Work stuff. You know how it is." I looked at them. Really looked at them. My son, who I'd sacrificed everything for, his wife, who'd been counting the days until my death like a child waiting for Christmas. "I'm not feeling well," I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. "I think I'm coming down with something. Why don't you two help yourselves to dinner? I'm going to lie down." Connor's face showed concern, genuine-looking concern. He'd always been a good actor, even as a child. "Are you sure, Mom? Should I bring you something? Tea?" "No." I walked toward the stairs. "I just need to rest." I went to my room, closed the door, sat on my bed and stared at the wall. And then I picked up my phone and started making calls. First call, my lawyer, Martin Weber. We'd gone to the same church for 15 years, and he'd handled my will after my mother passed. He answered on the third ring, surprised to hear from me so late on a Sunday evening. "Martin," I said, "I need to make some changes. Can you see me first thing tomorrow morning?" "Of course, Diane." "Is everything all right?" "It will be," I said. "It will be." Second call, Patricia. "I'm ready to tell the truth," I said when she answered. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes." She arrived with a bottle of wine and a box of tissues. I didn't need the tissues. That crack in my chest from months ago, it had sealed up into something harder than bone, something unbreakable. I told her everything. Every violation, every boundary crossed, every moment I'd swallowed my objections and told myself it was fine. And then I told her what I'd heard through the bedroom door. Patricia's face went through a journey. Shock, anger, rage, and finally, something that looked like grim satisfaction. "So, what are you going to do?" she asked. "I'm going to take my life back," I said, "and I'm going to teach my son that his mother isn't dead yet." Monday morning, I met with Martin. By noon, I'd signed new documents. My will, which had left everything to Connor, was changed. The house, my savings, my mother's jewelry, my grandmother's table, everything would now go to charity. Connor would get $1,000. $1,000 from a life he'd been so eager to inherit. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" Martin asked, looking at me over his glasses. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Tuesday, I called a real estate agent, Sharon Chen, top seller in the county, the one with her face on bus benches all over town. She came to the house Wednesday afternoon while Connor was at work, and Jessica was at a networking lunch with other influencers. "It's a beautiful property," Sharon said, walking through the rooms. "Great bones. With the right staging, we could list it for $850K, maybe more. The market is hot right now." "How fast can we move?" She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment she understood this wasn't just a transaction. "If you're serious, I can have it listed by Friday. We'll do an open house this weekend. With a property like this, in this neighborhood, you could have offers within a week. Let's do it." Thursday, I went to the bank and opened a new account at a different institution. I transferred everything except the bare minimum to cover monthly bills. I updated my direct deposits, my automatic payments, everything. The money Connor and Jessica had been unconsciously spending, because somehow my grocery bills had tripled and my utility bills had doubled since they'd moved in, that pipeline was shutting down. Friday morning, Sharon arrived with a staging team. Jessica was at the gym. Connor was at work. By the time they came home, there was a "for sale" sign in the front yard and a lockbox on the door. I was sitting in the living room on Jessica's uncomfortable modern couch when they walked in. Connor saw the sign first. I watched through the window as he stopped on the walkway, staring at it like it was written in a foreign language. Jessica was behind him, her yoga mat under her arm, still scrolling through her phone. She looked up, saw the sign. Her face went white, then red, then white again. They came through the door like a storm. "Mom, what the hell is that sign doing in the yard?" Connor's voice was loud, sharp. I'd never heard him use that tone with me before. I stayed seated, calm. That unbreakable thing in my chest was holding steady. I'm selling the house? You're what? You can't sell the house. We live here. You're temporary guests, I said, as you've reminded me repeatedly over the past 5 months. This is my house, and I'm selling it. Jessica stepped forward. Her face had arranged itself into an expression of concern, but her eyes were pure calculation. Diane, honey, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Are you feeling okay? Maybe we should call your doctor. Sometimes at your age, stress can cause... Don't. I stood up. I'm 5'4", and Jessica is 5'8", but I swear in that moment I towered over her. Don't you dare try to gaslight me. I heard you. Sunday night, through the bedroom door. Once the old bat dies, this house is ours. Ring any bells? The color drained from Jessica's face. Connor's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. I was standing right outside your door, I continued, about to tell you dinner was ready, about to invite you down for a meal I'd spent all afternoon making because I was stupid enough to think we could still be a family. Mom, we didn't mean... Connor started. Yes, you did. My voice was steel. You meant every word. You've been living in my house, using my things, planning my funeral, and waiting for me to die so you could inherit. Well, surprise, I'm not dead yet. And when I do die, you'll get exactly what you deserve, $1,000. The rest goes to charity. Jessica gasped, an actual theatrical gasp. You can't do that. I already did. I met with my lawyer Monday. The papers are signed. This is insane. Jessica's voice was rising, losing that honey-sweet coating. We gave up our apartment for you. We moved here to help you. You moved here because you were broke and saw a free place to live. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending it was altruism. Connor found his voice. Mom, please, let's talk about this. You're right. What we said was awful, but we were just venting. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're frustrated. Frustrated about what, Connor? Frustrated that I'm still alive? Frustrated that you actually have to interact with me instead of just waiting for me to die? He flinched. Good. You have until the end of the month, I said. The house will probably sell fast and I need you gone before closing. Where are we supposed to go? Jessica demanded. I don't care. You're both adults with jobs. Well, Connor has a job. Maybe Jessica can monetize her content faster. I hear there's good money in authenticity. You bitter old... Jessica started, but Connor grabbed her arm. Don't, he said quietly. Then to me, is this really what you want? To blow up our family over one conversation? You blew up our family, I said. I'm just picking up the pieces. They didn't leave immediately. They had nowhere to go, and even my newfound steel couldn't bring me to throw them out on the street that very night. But the dynamic shifted. The mask came off completely. Jessica stopped pretending. She'd slam doors, make snide comments, tell me I was a vindictive old woman who'd die alone. Connor tried to mediate at first, then gave up and joined her in the silent treatment. They'd whisper in corners, stop talking when I entered rooms, make plans in obvious voices about their future without me. I didn't care. That unbreakable thing in my chest kept me steady. The house showed beautifully. Sharon was right. Multiple offers came in within a week. I accepted one for $875,000, contingent on a 45-day close. I started looking at condos, smaller places near Patricia, near the hospital, near the life I'd been living before I'd let my son and his wife turn me into a ghost in my own home. Patricia came over often. She'd sit with me in the evening after Connor and Jessica had barricaded themselves in their room, and we'd drink tea and talk about everything and nothing. She never said, I told you so. She didn't have to. Where are you going to go? She asked one night. After the sale? I found a condo in that new development near the community center. 2 bedrooms, one for me and one for guests. Modern kitchen, a balcony with a view of the park. And most importantly, it's mine, just mine. She squeezed my hand. You're going to be okay." "I know," I said, and I meant it. They left 3 days before the closing, which was a week before my deadline. I came home from grocery shopping. I'd started going to a different store, one farther away, just to be out of the house more, and found the guest room empty, cleaned out. Jessica's ring light, gone. Connor's clothes, gone. The modern furniture, gone. They'd taken it all, and they'd taken my mother's pearls. I stood in my bedroom, staring at the empty spot in my jewelry box where the strand had been, and felt something twist inside me. Not anger this time, something sadder. Because taking those pearls wasn't about their value. It was about hurting me one last time. It was about making sure I knew exactly how much they despised me for not dying on their schedule. I called Martin. "Can they do that?" I asked. "Can they just steal my jewelry?" "Technically, it's theft. You could file a police report, press charges." "Would it be worth it?" He sighed. "Probably not. They'd claim it was a gift or a misunderstanding. You'd spend months in court for a piece of jewelry that, while precious to you, isn't worth much money. And it would keep you connected to them, keep you engaged in their drama." He was right. I knew he was right. "Let them keep the pearls," I said. "Consider it the price of my freedom." I closed on the house on a Tuesday in October. Sharon handed me a check that represented 37 years of mortgage payments, of maintenance, of love poured into walls and floors and gardens. I handed the keys to the new owners, a young couple with a baby on the way who looked at the house like it was a dream come true. I moved into my condo the next day. Patricia brought pizza and wine, and we ate it sitting on my floor because my furniture wasn't being delivered until Thursday. My grandmother's table, retrieved from the garage and refinished, would be the centerpiece of my new dining room. My mother's armchair would sit by the window where I could read in the afternoons. "How does it feel?" Patricia asked. I looked around at the empty walls, the blank canvas of my new life, the space that was entirely and completely mine. "It feels like I can breathe," I said. The condo was perfect, smaller, but that was good. Less space for people to occupy uninvited, less room for ghosts and expectations, and the weight of being someone's inconvenient obstacle to inheritance. I joined a book club at the library, started taking watercolor classes at the community center, picked up extra volunteer hours at the hospital because I wanted to, not because I was escaping my own home. I had coffee with Patricia every Tuesday and lunch with the other women from our old nursing crew every Friday. Connor called once, 2 weeks after they'd moved out. I let it go to voicemail. "Mom, it's me. Look, I think we need to talk. Jessica and I found an apartment, but things are tight, and I was wondering if maybe you could help us out. Just a small loan, just until we get on our feet. You sold the house for so much money, and I'm still your son, right? Family helps family. Call me back." I deleted the message. He called again a week later. Then again. I never answered. Eventually, the calls stopped. I'm 73 now. It's been a year since I sold the house, a year since I heard those words through the bedroom door, a year since I became the old bat who refused to die conveniently. Here's what I learned. Blood doesn't entitle anyone to your life, your home, or your death. Being someone's mother doesn't mean being their doormat. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their own cruelty. I don't know where Connor and Jessica are now. I don't know if they're struggling or thriving, or if they ever think about me. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if Connor regrets it, if he lies awake and remembers the mother who raised him alone, who sacrificed everything, who loved him enough to let him go when he proved he didn't deserve that love anymore. But mostly, I don't think about them at all. I think about my watercolor class and the way sunlight hits my balcony in the morning. I think about my book club arguing over whether the ending of our latest read was satisfying or cop-out. I think about the kids in the hospital who smile when I walk in with my cart full of stories. I think about my life, my actual life, not the life I spent waiting to be valued, not the life I spent making myself smaller so others could feel bigger. My life, full and rich and entirely my own. Patricia says I'm glowing. She says I look younger now than I did 2 years ago. Maybe she's right. Freedom has a way of smoothing out wrinkles that resentment carved. Last week I got a letter. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Connor's. I held it for a long time, feeling its weight, wondering what words he'd chosen. Apology? Anger? Another request for money? Then I walked to the shredder in my home office. My real home office, not Jessica's content creation studio, and I fed that letter through without opening it, watched it turn into strips of paper, meaningless and anonymous. Some people might think that's cruel. Some might say I should have at least read it, given him one more chance. But I gave him chances. I gave him my home, my patience, my understanding. I gave him my mother's dining table in the garage and my self-respect at the door. I gave him everything except my death. And apparently that was the only thing he really wanted. So no, I don't owe him my curiosity about what he has to say now. The sun is setting outside my window. My balcony flowers are blooming. I planted them myself, chose colors I loved without asking anyone's opinion. Tomorrow, Patricia and I are driving up the coast for a weekend getaway. Next month, I'm taking a pottery class because I've always wanted to try it, and there's no one here to tell me it's impractical or silly or a waste of money at my age. I'm 73 years old. I'm not dead yet, and I'm finally living. That's the real revenge, isn't it? Not the sold house or the changed will or the deleted voicemails. The real revenge is this. I'm happy, genuinely, deeply happy. And the people who tried to bury me before I was ready discovered that old bats have a way of spreading their wings and flying. I was never fragile. I was never dying. I was never their inheritance. I was just a woman waiting to remember her own strength. And now I've remembered. Every single day, I remember.